not die and let you all just go on doing what you're doing and not have some kind of little price to pay. When I work hard, you don't have to do anything. You've got your votes, you think, and you probably have, but you're going to get those votes when I decide that I'm going to let you take them. If you have the kind of bill that can assure you of 33 votes, the Speaker will bring you back. And then I'll make you get that again,
Time, Senator.
like you did when you were reigning. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Chambers, you're recognized, and this is your third time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Even I did not anticipate when we started this morning that at 2:51 p.m. we would still be on confirmations. We haven't dealt with one single bill yet. Open your book to the first bill. It might be a reviser's bill, number one, but look at all of the opportunities for amendments and motions. I can have a grammarian's holiday with the trash legislation that comes before us, just making grammatical suggestions. And some of them I will not offer as amendments which I intend to have voted on. Others, I'll take a vote, then I'll move to reconsider. And I think you all ought to just sit back and not say anything and see whether I, by myself, can take a bill 3 hours without anybody else saying anything. If there is only one word in that bill, what can I do with that word for 3 hours? Now, if there were 26 words, then each word could be subject of an amendment. But if there's one word, I'd have to try to figure how to amend it 26 times, huh? And there are more than 26 words in the English language. And I know how to discuss more than 26 words. And I'll have some of you listening, some of you marveling, some of you furious, but there's nothing you can do about it. And you all set this tone. When you had everything your way in the early days, and there were bills that you conservatives, you so-called conservatives, didn't like, oh, you gloried because you had it your way. And you were so pleased with yourselves, so proud of yourselves, because you could talk until a bill was taken off the agenda and the introducer couldn't get 33 votes. Well, I was watching. Do you know that there was a relationship between Mary and a woman named Elizabeth in the New Testament? Now I see Deacon Erdman under the balcony trying to be quiet and stay out of sight, but when it comes to the Bible, he knows a thing or two, and he knows about Mary and Elizabeth. But one of them had this comment made about her. She kept these things and pondered them in her heart. She pondered them in her heart. So while you all were doing your dirt because you had the numbers and you thought you would always have it your way, I was pondering these things since I don't have a heart in my brain, in this tired old 40-some-odd-year-old brain, 80-some-odd-year-old brain. See there? I said 40 and it should have been 80. It's failing me already. I might just get up here and do a parody of the way we old folks are supposed to be. And I can do it because I myself am old. I tell people, don't call me senior. Don't call me an elder. I am OLD. I am old. And that is a badge of honor for me, for a black man with my attitude and the way I've conducted myself to have survived 82 years when white people couldn't think of a way to erase me. That's an achievement in and of itself. I still have my mind. I can still walk around. Senator McAllister, he's the one who can do some push-ups, but it'd be wrong to challenge him now because he's one of his legs is kind of under the weather. That would be unfair advantage. But I can do a push-up or two. I can do 3 or 4 chin-ups. I can lift my own weight, and so can everybody in here. Whenever you sit down in a chair and you get up, see? Don't you feel better now? You're doing things you didn't even know. That's what an inspirational speaker does. Makes you feel that where you are and what you're doing makes you a worthwhile person. And when you get that little bit of glimmer, willing to acknowledge that you are something and somebody, when everybody has tried to make you into a cipher, then that might give you an inspiration and you will go do the things you can do. I've been trying all these years to stimulate white people to do what I was taught as a child that they could do, to get them to show me what it means to be a member of the master race. I wanted to see the master race in action, and I have not seen it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Hansen, you're welcome to close on the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon again. Just real quick, colleagues. These are 3 appointments to the Boiler Safety Code Advisory Board. One is a new appointee, Mr. Scott Holman, who's from Lincoln, and 2 are reappointees, Mr. Thomas Phipps from Omaha and Mr. Stephen Bly from Nehaka. I would recommend their confirmation as they came out unanimous with 1 member absent of the Business and Labor Committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. The question is the adoption of the report offered by the Business and Labor Committee. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
37 ayes, no nays on adoption of the confirmation report.
The report is adopted. Mr. Clerk, for items.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Retirement Systems Committee will meet in room 2022 at 3 o'clock, retirement at 3 o'clock in room 2022. New resolution, Senator Williams offers LR 76, and that'll be laid over at this time, Mr. President. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item.
Mr. President, select file, Senator Salamis, 619. I have E&R amendments, first of all.
Senator Salama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the E&R amendments to LB 619 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. It is adopted.
Mr. President, Senator Kolowski would move to amend with AM 957.
Senator Kolowski, you're welcome to open on your amendment. We'll pass over that amendment. Next amendments.
Mr. President, Senator Wayne would move to bracket the bill until June 1 of 2019.
Senator Wayne, you're welcome to open on your motion.
Yes, I would like to withdraw that motion.
Without objection, so done. Yeah. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, I'm back to Senator Kolowski's amendment, AM 957.
I think he is in retirement. They're going to go return him. If we stand at ease for a few seconds. Senator Kolowski, you're welcome to open on AM 957.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, would you give me instructions again, please?
Welcome to open on Amendment 957.
Thank you very much. AM 957 is to address the concerns Senator Groney stated on general file about school personnel getting paid by an insurance company. The services we are talking about that are performed by school personnel are identification of student needs and then altering parents to that observation, alerting parents to that observation. These services are not billable by definition. The parents are responsible for scheduling the mental health treatment. LB 619 simply states that if a mental health provider goes to a school building to see a student, the student's insurance coverage cannot deny coverage of a service solely on the basis of the location. So stating that insurance companies are not required to pay for services provided by an individual employed by or under contract with a school district or an educational service unit is a minor wording change that clearly states this intent. I encourage you to support AM 957 and LB 619.
Thank you, Senator Klosky. Senator Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I just would state that this piece of legislation was heard in front of the Banking Committee early in March. It had no opposition testimony, came out of committee on an 8-0 committee vote. I appreciate the questions we originally had on general file and appreciate the concerns that Senator Groney and others had, and they're working with Senator Klosky to find a suitable solution. So with that, I would certainly urge your support of AM 957 and the underlying bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Williams. Senator Groney, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate working with Senator Klosky and Senator Williams because at the introduction of the bill, they both answered questions that there was no intent that a ESU or a school district would start a service of mental health psychology and then offer diagnosis and then bill them and then start collecting insurance. But it wasn't clear, and Senator Klosky and Senator Williams said that was not the intent at all. It was the private insurance companies with private individuals that if the psychologist or mental health professional was willing to go to the school and the school provided a room that the services could be, so it was less time for the student out of the classroom. Senator Klosky wrote a very clear amendment that clarifies it, and I am 100% in agreement with AM 957 and LB 619. It felt good to work together as a team of senators to accomplish this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Groney. Seeing no others in the queue, Senator Klosky, you're welcome to close on AM 957.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, LB 619 was unanimously advanced from committee. Proponents at the hearing included several school districts, several education organizations, and 2 insurance companies. The revised fiscal note shows no cost. Right up to today, I'd also share with you, if you look at the cover story in the Omaha World Herald today about the insurance issue with mental health services to schools and communities. It's the cover story which has been a popular issue in the last couple of years. I've read a number of articles on the issue of the mental health and delivery of services such as this. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you. Thank you, Senator Klosky. The question before us is adoption of AM 957. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
40 yeas, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Klosky's amendment.
AM 957 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 619 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. LB 619 is advanced. Oh, excuse me. LB 619 is advanced. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Senator Slama, LB 34. I have ENR amendments, first of all.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 34 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The amendment is adopted.
Senator Coulterman would move to amend with AM 915.
Senator Coulterman, you're welcome to open on AM 915.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. AM 915 is purely a technical amendment suggested by ENR. It merely strikes 3 words that are redundant. It does not change the substance or intent of the bill. I would ask for your approval of this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Coulterman. Seeing no one wishing to speak, Senator Coulterman is welcome to close. He waives close, and the question before us is adoption of AM 915. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record. Oh, one moment, please, Mr. Clerk. Please record.
40 yeas, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Coulterman's amendment.
AM 915 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Mr. President.
Seeing no one in the queues, Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 34 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 34 is advanced. Next item.
Senator Coulterman, do you want to have your committee now? Mr. President, Retirement Systems will now meet in room 2022, Retirement in room 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Senator Slama, ENR amendments, first of all, to LB 243.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 243 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ER 57 is adopted.
Senator Hughes would move to amend with AM 937.
Senator Hughes, you're welcome to open on AM 937.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. My amendment is very, very simple. In the bill, it does state that the chairman of the Natural Resource Committee and the chairman of the Ag Committee will also be members of the Healthy Soils Task Force. What my amendment does just says, or their designee can do that. So the chairman, if they're unavailable, they can appoint someone from their committee to do that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hughes. Senator Chambers, you're welcome. You're well recognized.
Mr. President, I would like to divide the question and consider each chairperson as a separate entity.
They are easily divisible, so ordered. Oh, excuse me. Senator Chambers, would you please come forward? Senator Chambers, my information that you're wishing to withdraw that?
Yes.
So ordered. Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the legislature, I would like to ask Senator Hughes a question.
Senator Hughes, would you please yield?
Of course.
Senator Hughes, when I listened carefully to what you said, you mentioned the chairpersons of 2 committees. When I went up and looked at the actual wording, there's no mention in that amendment as drafted any chairperson. It talks about certain lines. So would you explain what chairperson, first tell which 2 chairpersons you mentioned, then give the relevance of that to the amendment that's up there now?
In the bill, in the lines that were referenced in my amendment, it does talk about the chairman of the Agriculture Committee and the chairman of the Natural Resources Committee would be members of this Healthy Soils Task Force. We did not spell them out in the amendment. We just included the line and after include or their designee. I think after chairman, I don't have the amendment in front of me, I apologize.
I accept what you said, but really, I'm not too pleased with the chairperson of either committee. Senator Halloran is the chairperson of the Ag Committee, which in my parlance stands for aggravation and agony. And my bill, which probably should have gone to judiciary because it relates to going on people's property without notice, having them haled into court and charged with offenses, subjected to different methodologies by which the land can be taken from them, and it went to the Ag Committee. There are conservatives on that committee. All of this heavy-handed government overreach did not make those people any difference because the one who brought the bill was somebody they have no use for. So when I hear Senator Halloran again talk about calling a convention because the federal government spends too much money, I'm not going to believe he means that at all. He's just trying to get some airtime. And I don't believe these so-called conservatives who talk about heavy-handed government and overreach. When the county board, without giving you notice, can send people on your land to poison prairie dogs, if that's not government overreach, I don't know what it is. That's what my bill would stop. If one of these so-called conservatives had the sense to bring it, you would have accepted it. It's something that never should have gotten into the law in the first place. But before they do that, they're supposed to give you notice. But then they erase that by saying, even if you don't get any notice, all this can happen. They can come on your land. If they destroy crops, if they do damage to your land or anything else, they are immune from liability. You never knew who they were. You don't know what they're doing there. Then they can spread poison, and you cannot interfere because you're interfering with a government operation if you do that, but you don't know they're from the government. These are people who could be marauders. They could be trespassers. They could be thieves. But they can come on your land and do those things, and somebody like Senator Halloran, who calls himself a conservative, likes that. No, he doesn't like it, but he dislikes me more than he dislikes his government overreach. So this session, I'm going to have a chance to discuss bills, and then the other gentleman who is head of the Natural Resources Committee, he'll never let my bill out that would prevent the Game and Parks Commission to authorize mountain lion hunts. I'm going to turn on my light. I know my time's just about out.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. You're next in the queue. You're recognized.
Thank you. So now I began. Not like Senator Wayne, where a point is reached where I will say, well, you've done as much as you can or as much as you will or what I want. There's now no negotiation. There is no accord that can be reached. Senator Halloran has done his dirt. Senator Hughes has done his dirt. And now I'm going to try to bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing. I have marked some bills, but I didn't tell you which ones they are in advance, but you'll find out. This is one of them. This bill is bad on its own. I didn't think that at first because I had attributed too much integrity to people who supported it. I did listen to what Senator Hughes had to say about the bill and why it's really not needed. Just because I find somebody to have done something that I find obnoxious doesn't mean I consider the person obnoxious and everything that person does to be obnoxious, and that's how I learn. Even the people that I don't like know something that I don't know. Every one of them. If they've got children, their children like them, and I don't know why. That's something I don't know about them. So now I'm just going to take my time and in a leisurely fashion show how this is done. I'm not going to run any of these bills to earth. I'm going to stroll. You might analogize it to the death by 1,000 cuts, or 10,000 cuts, or 1,000,000 cuts. Once you get above the number 10, it doesn't matter how many you add after that. I can take the time. Every time I hear something like that, it makes me think of a rhyme. Edgar Allan Poe had written one called The Bells, and he said at one of the points in the poem, keeping time in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation of the bells, 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 to the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. He was talking about the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment. And on, and I could go on, but that's too easy. I'm going to take time, as I stated that I would do. I cannot make you all do as you should do, but I can make you pay when you don't. And the only thing I can exact from you in this legislature is time. Can I do this for 40 some odd days? Well, there was rain for 40 days and 40 nights without stopping. The people got worried, but the rain kept dropping. Noah sent out a raven, he sent out a dove, but the water great God kept coming from above. The people came and they wanted to get on Noah's ark. And they didn't believe Noah when he said, a change is going to come in the climate. Something you never saw before is going to happen. And they laughed at him like the Republicans and Donald Trump, the crazy man, has people laughing. So when the rain began to fall, people didn't think anything of it. Then it got ankle deep, shin deep, knee deep, thigh deep, hip deep, belly deep. Then they began to worry. So they came to Noah and they knocked on his door. Noah, Noah, let me come in. Noah looked out and said, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. And they cried and they begged and they pleaded. And although they couldn't get on the ark, Noah brought the animals 2 by 2, the oxen, the fox, and the kangaroo. But as for you human beings, stay out there. You had warning. You chose to ignore it. Now, this is the recompense of your reward. This is what you get for not listening. You had the opportunity and you chose to ignore it. I tried to reason with you all, but if you won't accept warning, you're not going to listen to reason. And I told you, as you did it on each of those bills, you are setting the tone for the rest of the session.
Time,
there will
Senator.
be bills that you care about. Did you say time?
Yes, Senator. And Senator Chambers, you are in the queue, and this is your third time at the mic.
On this one. Thank you, Mr. President. So we're with Noah on the ark. How many of you all believe that he had 2 of every kind of animal on the ark? The question that ought to be asked before you get to that is, how many animals were there on the earth? The Bible doesn't tell you any number of animals. There may have only been 2, 6. You look at the plenitude of wildlife now, and you think that's how many different species were there then. That ain't necessarily so. Just like you think Jesus is the only one who could feed 5,000 with 3 loaves of bread and some little fishes. It just said 5,000. It didn't say 5,000 what? He fed 5,000 ants, which anybody could do. I can go out here and find an ant colony, and I can feed 5,000, 10,000, however many of them are there. You don't read the Bible. You project from your position of lack of knowledge to make something a certain way when that is not contained in the words that you're reading. That's why Gershwin wrote, the things that you're liable to read in the Bible, they ain't necessarily so. Jonah, he lived in a whale. Jonah, he lived in a whale. He made his home in that fish's abdomen. Jonah, he lived in a whale. A whale is not a fish, is it? They didn't even get that right. So which is wrong? The Bible which says a great fish, or those who came after and said it was a whale? Which is right? You don't even know. You don't know which one it was based on what I say. Ignorance rules this society. The things that they will burn somebody at the stake for, such as the Bible, they don't even know what's in it. Don't even know what's in it. Or they would have read where Jesus said, you know not what spirit you are of. You pulling all this crazy stuff. These so-called Christians who are going for Donald Trump. If he had read the Bible, he would have seen that Jesus had been tempted by the devil. God and the devil had conversations. Jesus and the devil had conversations. And that's just kind of a parody, because Jesus and the devil were there. The scripture quotes the devil, and the devil quotes scripture. That's tit for tat, measure for measure, even Stephen. And you all get upset when somebody says the Bible is a bunch of fairy tales. There's a guy named H.L. Mencken. He wrote for the Baltimore Sun many years ago. He was known as a great skeptic mixed with cynicism. And he said he didn't believe in God for the same reason that he didn't believe in Mother Goose. Now, maybe H.L. Mencken said that, or maybe Clarence Darrow said it. Clarence Darrow was the one who made a fool out of you all's hero. Your hero had given a speech that was called the Cross of Gold speech. And people don't even know what it said, but they tie this person who ran for president, couldn't win, had no chance, and he contested with Darrow in what was called the monkey trial. They were arguing about evolution. The phraseology from this Nebraskan was, you shall not push or torture labor with this cross of gold, or you will not place this cross of gold on labor's brow. They were talking about the gold standard, not literal gold, not like a cross, not like a crown, none of that. But it's called the cross of gold speech. And who even knows what it said? Who even cares? That's why people in this society are so easy to take advantage of.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was my third time, correct?
Yes, it was, Senator. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Hughes, you're welcome to close. He waives closing on AM 937. The question before us is adoption of AM 937. All those in favor, please vote aye. All opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
41 ayes, no nays on adoption of Senator Hughes' amendment.
AM 937 is adopted.
Mr. President, Senator Chambers would move to amend with AM 1142.
Senator Chambers, you're welcome to open on AM 1142.
Thank you, Mr. President. You don't put a cross on somebody's head. He didn't say press down this. If I told you it's the cross of gold speech, it had something to do with the cross. You shall not crucify labor on this cross of gold. That's what it said. But you all don't pay attention and it doesn't matter. I believe in second chances. I'm giving this body a second chance to do the right thing. I will tell you what this amendment consists of. First of all, it says, strike the original sections and all amendments thereto, and insert the following new sections. So you'd get rid of the original green copy, you'd get rid of Senator Hughes's amendment, and if there were others adopted, they're all gone. And what would be inserted is the contents of Senator Hunt's original bill dealing with SNAP. That's what I'm doing. This is the operative language that would exist if anybody's paying attention. And you may have this on your gadget. I still use the paper. On page 4, starting in line 6, except as otherwise provided in subdivision C of this subsection, a person convicted of a felony involving the possession or use of a controlled substance shall only be eligible for supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits if such person, paren small letter I, has completed her or his sentence for such felony, including any term of parole, probation, or post-release supervision, or parenthesis, small double I, is serving a term of parole, probation, or post-release supervision for such felony. Then we come down to beginning in line 18 and through lines 25, this language would be stricken from the existing law. A person with 1 or 2 felony convictions for the possession or use of a controlled substance shall only be eligible to receive supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits under this subsection if he or she is participating in or has completed a state licensed or nationally accredited substance abuse treatment program since the date of conviction. The determination of such participation or completion shall be made by the treatment provider administering the program. Now, that is the original of what we wanted. Or is it? Now I've got your interest, haven't I? We're on LB 243. And I am inserting the wording of Senator Hunt's original bill. I have two amendments. One, which is the one we're discussing now, which I'm discussing, LB 1142. But I knew you wouldn't pay attention, so what I read to you was the amendment that I'm offering to this amendment, because I want to be able to take a lot of time. Senator Greger, you all did not let Senator Hunt get a vote on her bill. So now, the day of reckoning comes. What I read to you was the amendment to my amendment. Now let me read to you the amendment. Who paid attention? All her bill did was to remove some language from the statute. If you go to page 4, which you're not going to do, but this is for the record. Oh, and I can digress a lot. Do you see how much time I took off the clock by reading the wrong amendment? And both of the amendments are mine, and I got them mixed up. You can say touche to me if you would have paid attention. I know you don't pay attention. I know you. You don't even care what I'm saying. But pretty soon you're going to consider what I'm doing, which is taking time, as I said I would. And I want to see if somebody's smart enough to stop me. I'll tell you how you can stop me today. It's a motion that's not debatable. The speaker would have an opportunity to speak and say what needs to be said. And it takes priority over every other motion. You can move to adjourn. And you know how that would upset me. I never agreed to adjourn, ever. Just so you have something when you get very frustrated. On page 4 of my amendment, you would strike everything out of the bill. That's what has to be done. I could not offer an amendment to his bill because it would not be germane. What I'm offering is not germane to what his original bill does. So this would strike everything. And when you strike everything from a bill, you're not attaching it to anything. All that is left is the number. And you can put anything under that number you choose. An amendment to his bill of the kind I'm offering would not be germane, and it couldn't be taken up. So I want to do it according to the rules, as I said I would play by. So on page 4, this is the language we would strike. That's all her bill did originally. And you all didn't want her to have a vote. But that bill, that language was too rich for some people's blood around here. So, recognizing that my good friend, whom I deeply respect, Senator Hunt, was willing to try to reach an accord with the opponents. And I told her, if you've got the votes, don't do all that. It's a waste of time. It'll weaken the bill. Just go ahead and move the bill. But she doesn't operate like I do, and she wanted to reach out to the people who said they had some good faith opposition to her bill. That was the time when Senator Geist fooled all of us and stood up and talked about the need to better understand addiction, how it operates, what it does to people, what it causes people to do. She mentioned something about drug courts, how they have graduations, how inspiring they are, and I'm paraphrasing, I want to make that clear. And that when they have a graduation, if some people wanted her to accompany them, she would do that. And I think that I may have even, when I spoke, said that I had to give her some credit for the comments that she made. And I never dreamed, and you wouldn't have been able to make me to believe, that somebody who said all those wonderful things in the face of some people who were opposed to the bill would sit and not vote after having tricked Senator Hunt into trusting her and Senator Arch in drafting an amendment that they had no intention of supporting. That's the trickery, the treachery done in this place. I'm going to turn on my light because this time is going to be mine.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Greigert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to stand a point of order. I don't believe the amendment that Senator Chambers has got here is germane to the bill. My bill is a Healthy Soils Task Force. The bill that he's bringing to amend my bill is actually SNAP, and that I don't see where that really has any relevance to my Healthy Soil Task Force bill, which is just to coordinate and communicate information that will, be a help to other people. So, and as far as the farming community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Greigert. Senator Greigert is challenging the germaneness. Senator Chambers, can you explain why your amendment is germane?
Mr. President, I'm going by the way things have been done around here for generations. They probably were doing it even before I came. To avoid the argument of non-germaneness, everything is stripped out of that bill. There have even been some court cases on this tactic, and it was acknowledged that had an attempt been made to attach this material to the existing bill, it would have been indeed germane. But if you remove everything from that bill, then all that's left is the number. And this that is being done here has been done before. And therefore, I don't think it violates the germaneness rule.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. In reviewing the rule on germaneness, I rule that your amendment is not germane.
I would challenge the chair.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. You are recognized to speak on that. Each member will have an opportunity to speak one time on overruling the chair.
Thank you. And Mr. President, I'm going to try this same thing on other bills. And frankly, I don't care what the ruling is. With the amount of information and material in Senator Greigert's bill, it'll be easier for me to just amend it than to do what I was doing. The point I wanted to make was the treachery engaged in dealing with Senator Hunt's bill. We have before us now a bill that was amended by Senator Hughes. A committee amendment by the Agriculture Committee was adopted. And that amendment has 3 pages. And I think Senator Greigert might have stepped out of the frying pan into the fire, because it's going to be much easier for me to amend that committee amendment than it was to go through all that I was offering with mine. I knew that you would not accept it. But as I write out these other amendments, then I'll take much more time. And even if somebody would try to find a way to stop other people from talking, all you will force me to do is go after other bills on the agenda, and I assure you that that's what I will do, and you're going to find out that Senator Gragert has not done you a favor. A ruling is what the legislature, by majority of those who are here and voting, I imagine, would say it is. So if you don't want me to continue trying to get you to adopt Senator Hunt's bill as a replacement for this one, that will not stop me from talking about it, and all it will have done is to inflame me. So you think it makes me any difference what I talk about? If we can talk as long as Senator Gragert about confirmations as we did, imagine how long I can talk about your bill. And who brought up the issue of germaneness in the first place? I'd like to ask Senator Gragert a question, if he would yield.
Senator Gragert, would you yield?
Sure.
Senator Gragert, who brought up the issue of germaneness during this discussion?
I was informed of the germaneness from Senator Salama.
Senator Salama, did you hear my question?
Maybe I'll repeat it.
Who first brought up the matter of germaneness?
Senator Chambers, you did.
And somebody who thought they were smart then told you, look, here it is in the rule book. Why were you blinded to the idea, to the fact that I brought it up? I discussed it. You weren't paying attention to me, were you?
I'm trying to pay attention to you, yes.
That's not the question. You didn't pay attention to me.
I must have missed that part of it.
And then Senator Salama, your good friend, the seatmate, awakened you to the issue of germaneness.
Thank you.
Is that true?
1 minute.
That's true.
Did she show you the book and you read what was in the book, or you took her word for it?
No, I seen the book here.
Did you read it?
I briefly read it, that's correct.
Did you read it? What I mean, did you read all of the rule?
No, I didn't read the entire book.
But you read enough, and having been told by Scholar Slama what the rules are, you took her interpretation.
Yes, sir.
This gives me the opportunity to discuss this for a while. So I don't care what we discuss. And Mr. President, I'm going to turn on my light because I don't expect others to participate in this discussion. I mean, they're welcome to it, but I think it's too rich for their blood.
Thank you, Senator Chambers and Senator Gragert. Senator Chambers, you're only allowed to speak one time on a motion to overrule the chair. There is no one else in the queue, so Senator Chambers, you are recognized to close on your motion to overrule the chair.
So so it's clear for everybody, since we're doing some instruction in the rules, your opening constitutes the one time that you can speak if you're moving to overrule the chair. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I want that to be clear to everybody. And now nobody has chosen to speak, so it's my opportunity to close.
That's correct.
How much time do I have to close?
4 minutes and 30 seconds.
You mean that discussion that you and I had was marked against me?
Yes, it was.
I'm not going to ask the chair to yield, because the chair does not have to do that when the chair is presiding. But I'm just going to show that you're out of the skillet into the fire. There are so many motions that can be made, so many amendments that can be offered. And I may as well give a clinic on how to do this. And Senator Greger, you can take advice from Senator Slama, and she can tell you how to defeat everything that I'm bringing up there, I'm sure. Would you put that on the close? I have a very thick pad of paper. If I want to, I can just stand here and cogitate for my entire time. One of those people who likes to think before speaking. And depending on the seriousness of an issue, more thought may be required than at others. However, when you're dealing with an audience that is not paying attention, and if they pay attention, they don't understand, it doesn't matter whether you take time and think and say something sensible or just stand up and say cock-a-doodle-doo. It matters not. But I'm going to do some serious discussing today, and I'm going to offer this amendment to other bills. And whoever's in the chair will have to rule it out of order. But I still will have my chance to open on my amendment. And maybe it will be germane, who knows? But I will tip Senator Greger off to the next motion, and that's to indefinitely postpone the bill. And as the introducer, you can agree to take it up now or lay it over. I'm sure Senator Slama will tell you, take it up now, take it up now. And that's what he'll say. The chair will say, Senator Greger, and Senator Greger will stand up and say, take it up now, take it up now. And then look for that smile of approval. And here's what he'll see. Oh my God. And I didn't even study drama. I study you all. And all I'm doing is taking time. I might even touch on some of the things that Senator Hughes raised the other day, which showed the lack of necessity for this bill.
1 minute.
But you all don't care about that. I wonder if a motion to indefinitely postpone is unsuccessful, if it can be reconsidered. So I think we need to try all these things today and just see what we shall see. But I will tell this to Senator Greger, that a reconsideration motion having failed, it cannot be reconsidered. You knew that already? Well, you were nodding yes. You trust me? No, he said no to both of them. He's confused now. That is what we're doing here today. And as Frank Sinatra said, I'm going to do it my way. So, Mr. President,
Time, Senator.
I would ask for a call of the House and then a roll call vote.
There's been a request to place the House under call. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
26 ayes, 4 nays to place the House under call.
The House is under call. Senators, please record your presence. Those unexcused senators outside the chamber, please return to the chamber and record your presence. All unauthorized personnel, please leave the floor. The House is under call. Senator Vargas, would you please check in? Senator Bowles and Lindstrom, please check in. Members, we are voting on overriding the chair. This motion requires a majority of those present, which will be 24. And there's been a request to do a roll call vote. Mr. Clerk?
Senator Albright, voting no. Senator Arch, voting no. Senator Blood, voting no. Senator Bowles, not voting. Senator Bostelman, voting no. Senator Brandt, voting no. Senator Brewer, voting no. Senator Breese, voting no. Senator Kavanaugh, not voting. Senator Chambers, not voting. Senator Clements, voting no. Senator Crawford, not voting. Senator DeBoer, voting no. Senator Dorn, voting no. Senator Erdman, voting no. Senator Friesen, voting no. Senator Geist, voting no. Senator Gregert, voting no. Senator Groney, Senator Holleran, voting no. Senator Ben Hansen, voting no. Senator Matt Hansen, voting no. Senator Hilgers, voting no. Senator Hickelman, voting no. Senator Howard, voting no. Senator Hughes, voting no. Senator Hunt, not voting. Senator Kalowski, not voting. Senator Coulterman, voting no. Senator LaGrone, voting no. Senator Lathrop, voting no. Senator Lindstrom, voting no. Senator Linehan, Senator Lowe, voting no. Senator McAllister, voting no. Senator McDonald, voting no. Senator Moorfield, Senator Moser, voting no. Senator Merman, voting no. Senator Pansing Brooks, not voting. Senator Quick, voting no. Senator Scheer, voting no. Senator Slama, voting no. Senator Stinner, voting no. Senator Vargas, voting no. Senator Walls, voting no. Senator Wayne, voting no. Senator Williams, voting no. Senator Wishart, voting no. 0 A's, 39 A's on the motion to overrule the chair.
The motion to overrule the chair fails. Raise the call. Mr. Clerk? Mr. Clerk, you have a motion?
I do, Mr. President. The next motion on the bill, Senator Chambers would move to indefinitely postpone Legislative Bill 243. Senator Gregg, as the introducer, you have the option to take that motion up or lay the bill over.
I'll take the motion up. Right.
Thank you, Senator Gregor. Senator Chambers, you're recognized to open on your motion to indefinitely postpone.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the legislature. I have the opportunity to open, speak 2 more times, and then close, I imagine. And then I'm going to tell Senator Gregert and the rest of you all what I'm going to do. I'm going to move to strike Section 1 from the committee amendment, and I'm going to discuss all my times, and I'm going to reconsider every vote. I'm going to move to strike Section 2, and I'm going to speak all of my times, then move to reconsider that. Then I've got some priority motions I'm going to make, so I don't care what time we stay here. Why don't we do something that has never been done before, the first full day of debate? Why don't we put Senator Chambers, the oldest man on this floor, to the test and see if he can go till midnight? Why don't we do that? How many of you all want to stay till midnight? Raise your hand. Some people don't have a life. But it'll be a lively time around here. There will be a bit of lightheartedness, a bit of seriousness, and I'm going to start by reading what I label Ernie Graham number 51. It's an Omaha World Herald article dated March 28th, 2019, page 1B. It's got these as parts of a headline. Nebraska Legislature, bill to offer food stamps to some drug felons fails. Then you can call this a subhead if you'd like to. Motion to end filibuster fails as several votes drop away under pressure from Ricketts' administration. This was written by Martha Stoddard. Political pressure sank a bill Wednesday that would have allowed some convicted drug users to qualify for food assistance. Legislative Bill 169, introduced by State Senator Megan Hunt of Omaha, fell short of a filibuster-ending cloture motion on a filibuster-ending cloture motion. If I happen to misread, I'll just go back and reread to make sure I get it correct. The motion needed 33 votes to succeed, but only 28 senators voted for the motion and 16 voted against it, with 5 senators abstaining. Supporters had argued that the bill would help former inmates reintegrate into society and stay out of prison. Opponents said drug users should work rather than get government handouts, unlike farmers. Counts taken by supporters last week showed there were enough votes to overcome a filibuster and potential veto. But several votes dropped away under pressure from Governor Pete Ricketts' administration, which opposed the bill. Everybody knows you all folded under the governor's pressure, and you're identified. We know who you weak-kneed, spineless, gutless individuals are, whose word means zero, less than zero. That was a digression. Back to the article. 4 senators who had worked on a compromise amendment or who had voted to send the bill out of committee abstained Wednesday. You went on record giving your word, and then the governor made you back off. You gave God the finger because God knows that you told a lie. Now we all know that you're liars. You're spineless. You're gutless. Faithless. Going back to the article. And by the way, here I am. Counteract what I say. If you don't like it, do like Senator Slama, who is instructing Senator Gregor what to do. She stood up to me. You all stand up to me. I wish. Afterward, Hunt said she plans to keep working on the issue in future years. The failed cloture vote means the bill likely will not be taken up again this year. Then I put down in the margin, don't be so sure. She said she was proud of getting the legislation further than previous attempts and proud of the compromise reached on the bill. She has a reason to be proud. She just didn't know what she was dealing with. How many of you have heard the term boom slang? Boom is an African word for tree. Slang is a word for snake. A boom slang is a tree snake, and it is highly venomous. Senator Hunt had noted previously that other felons, including rapists, robbers, and murderers, face no such bar to getting food assistance. So this faithless 4 felt that rapists, those who rape little children, those who participate in gang rapes, should be allowed these benefits. Senator Lowe feels the same way. Robbers and murderers. But somebody who has had an addiction for drugs and was convicted just of possession is treated worse than a child rapist, a child murderer, a wife beater, a wife murderer. And some of these people who work with Senator Hunt profess to be Christians, I think. Well, if they make that profession, you know they're hypocrites. Continuing. As introduced, LB 169 would have allowed people convicted of drug felonies to get supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits, commonly called food stamps, as long as they were complying with probation, parole, or post-release supervision. The compromise, which this faithless for, the compromise would have limited such benefits to people convicted once or twice of drug possession or use, as long as they were complying with probation, parole, or post-release supervision. Current law sets a higher standard for those people, requiring them to go through a state licensed or nationally accredited substance abuse treatment program. As in current law, the compromise amendment would have maintained a permanent prohibition on food stamps for people convicted of drug distribution or with 3 or more convictions for drug possession or use. Senator Andrew LaGrone, he said with a groan. I just threw that in, you know, for comic relief. He is a comical fellow. Senator Andrew LaGrone of Gretna was among the bill's opponents. He said the issue is about providing taxpayer-funded benefits to drug users, a proposition that he said he could not support. Oh, such a sterling moral person, highest morals. He cannot support it. Senator LaGrone said no. His morals are too high for that. Sometimes these people who are so holy in the light, you better not follow them when they enter the dark.
1 minute.
LaGrone said the issue is about providing the taxpayer-funded benefits to drug users, a proposition that he said he could not support. SNAP is federally funded, not state funded. He said, well, taxpayers pay into the fund from which federal funds are drawn for these programs. And they also pay into that money that gives price supports to farmers who are very inefficient and lazy. But he's such a hypocrite on top of everything else. I'm going to put my light on again. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Greigert, you are recognized to respond to Senator Chambers' motion to indefinitely postpone LB 243.
Thank you, Mr. President. I oppose the motion to indefinitely postpone and urge your vote to advance LB 243. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Greigert. Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Continuing with the article. On the other side, Senator Steve Lathrop of Omaha argued that senators don't have to like what drug users have done to support the measure. He said the bill makes good policy sense because it would help address the overcrowding crisis in Nebraska's prisons. That's the end of the article. Then I wrote one of my rhymes titled Senatorial Perfidy and Moral Cowardice. Then beneath that, their master's voice took away choice. Then, in the margin, a definition of Pandora's box from the dictionary, the American Heritage Dictionary, a source of extensive but unforeseen troubles or problems. Then they give an example. The Senate investigation turned out to be a Pandora's box for the administration. Now, do you all know who Pandora was? Do you all know who the first woman was? You'll say Eve because you've been brainwashed by Judeo-Christian mythology. Pandora was the first woman, according to the belief of others who are not blinded and deceived by Christianity and Judaism when it comes to their mythology. And as usual, the woman is the heavy, in the same way that Eve supposedly persuaded Adam to take a bite of the fruit from the forbidden tree. People say an apple, but the Bible doesn't say an apple. They may not have even had apples in those days. The Bible used so many allegories, metaphors, even parables. The forbidden tree need not have even been a literal tree. The fruit which Adam tasted may not have been literal fruit that you buy in the produce section of a supermarket. You don't know that, but you don't have to, because ignorance is the ticket in America, and especially in religion. You believe any kind of yarn that you're told. You believe that a flood based on mythology really happened, but you reject what science has established about climate change, and you see it in all these people out here now begging for taxpayers' money to help them bail out because they chose to build on a floodplain which had a history of flooding. And now they who foolishly built their house on the sand rather than on the rock that Jesus talked about are coming with their hands stuck out. Not just saying, give me something to eat, give me tons of money. In total, more than $1 billion. That's what they're, and Senator LaGrone, our resident comedian, is not upset with that. It's taxpayer money. I don't believe any of the mythology. I don't believe this yarn about Eve and Adam, and I don't believe the yarn about Pandora. You know what they say about Pandora? She was given a box that was not to be opened. So she took the box to the man, he opened it, and out came all the troubles. Who's to blame for it? Pandora. How many of y'all know that Adam was Eve's father and mother? One who gives birth is a mother. Eve was birthed from Adam. Adam was Eve's mother.
1 minute.
Oh, you all can't accept that, huh? Everything goes out the window when your mythology is shown to be a lot of nonsense. Another question. You have a belly button because an umbilical cord connected you to your mother. When they cut the umbilical cord, you had a belly button. Why, when you see the portrait that Michelangelo drew, and he was divinely inspired by God, why does Adam have a navel? Adam was not born. Adam was made out of mud or something, leaned against the fence post to dry. Why do men have nipples on their pectoral muscles? Nipples are those avenues by which babies suckle and get their mother's milk. So Adam was both a man and a woman. He birthed Eve and he suckled her when she was a child.
Time,
Otherwise,
Senator.
Oh, thank you.
Senator Chambers, you are recognized, and this is your third time.
Otherwise, why does a man have nipples? Oh, you ain't got an answer for that, huh? And you want to laugh at Greek and Roman mythology. At least they're more logical than your Christian and Hebrew mythology. The gods were just like you all. They fought. They were unfaithful. They were tricksters. They were liars, just like you all. You all are made more in the image of the pantheon of Greek and Roman gods than this Hebrew fellow who sits up there with his feet hanging over the edge of the universe with a long beard. Beliefs are horrendous things. They lead to some of the worst cruelties ever visited on human beings. The Catholic Church burned philosophers, but philosophers never burned a priest, never burned the Pope. The popes were poisoners. Those popes were some bad fellows. That's where organized crime got its origin, in the Catholic Church. They were mobsters, they were racketeers. The de Medici family, Cesare, Lucretia, they were Borgias. You don't even know the difference between the de Medicis and the Borgias, do you? And what I told you just now may not be true, but it doesn't matter. It's tough having been here around the master race for 40 some odd years. Here's a little verse, well, several verses, but a rhyme. The speaker's empowered to set the agenda by which the day's business is bound. Should such be needed, then supplemental addenda he adds, and the clock is rewound. When everything goes according to Hoyle, then the day's business gets done. But if a joker slips into the deck, the train off the tracks will be run. Trustworthiness is not a mere word, and keeping one's word is expedient. A moral portfolio is fatally flawed if honor is not an ingredient. Cravenly members, torqued by the governor, violate trust, such is mirthless. Spineless and gutless themselves they do brand. Their word counts for nothing, 'tis worthless. If one must deal with them, on guard take care, and heed well this warning, beware, beware. The hottest of places in all of perdition reserved is for those who take no position. Read Dante's Inferno. Is that what he wrote? Who wrote the Divine Comedy? All the ones who participated in writing the Bible, but it's not called the Divine Comedy. You all call it the Bible. The Divine Comedy was written by an individual, and one of the things in that Divine Comedy explained where the term misery loves company comes from. Satan was asked, why, since he was doomed forever anyway, did he want to make others fall also? Satan gave the answer, it is a solace to the wretched to have companions in grief. In other words, misery loves company. The smallest living thing, if you put a hostile environment around it or put it in a hostile environment, like a microbe, it'll move and try to get away from it to stay alive. The biggest animal will do whatever's necessary to try to stay alive. Principles of biology. Then when Francis Gary Powers was flying a spy plane over Russian territory, the U-2, and was shot down, he had been given a capsule containing poison, and he was supposed to bite into it so that he wouldn't be captured. Christians told him that, and suicide is supposed to be something Christians don't do, but they required him to do that, and he didn't do it. So these Christians asked, why didn't Gary Powers bite into that capsule? You know what godless Khrushchev told them? You know what godless Khrushchev told these Christian Americans? Living things want to go on living. You threaten the life of any living thing and watch it either fight or take flight. If fight doesn't work, flight. Living things want to go on living. Not only do Christians don't understand that, they take people out of here, and your state does it also as an official policy.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Seeing no one wanting to speak, Senator Chambers, you're recognized to close on your amendment to indefinitely postpone.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think a better phrasing of that would not be seeing no one who wants to speak, seeing no one who dares to speak. We're at that point in the session where smart people are going to keep their head down and say nothing. But I'm not smart like you all. I'm not a member of your master race. Although some of your kind of blood, as I say, polluted my veins and wanted to pollute my brains, it wasn't enough to make me a coward like you. And imagine what I could do if I didn't have that pollution in my veins and messing with my mind and was purely black with all of the things that go with that. Our blood is so strong and powerful that one drop of it would make a person otherwise considered white a black person. Some of these people who are seeking out this DNA evidence about where they supposedly came from find out that they have roots in Africa, and some of them, now this is not a joke, they have to get counseling, and they try to keep it a secret because they're a part of that race that so demean black people that to have any blood from black people in your veins is such a stigma, such a stigma. And these are the same ones who are racist and say America has made so much progress, but even though they look white, they don't want anybody to know that they're not, because they will suffer what they have contributed toward black people as far as suffering. White people know what they've done to us. You all know, and you know what you think and how you feel now. And you know what you'd do if you thought you could get away with it. So don't tell me how far America has come. It's as racist now as it has ever been, and Trump has made it possible for it to come out in the open. All these mass shootings, they're by Christian white people. A young white Christian went into a black church, invited to join them in a prayer meeting, and set themselves up, and he murdered 9 of them. A white Christian. White Christians burning black churches. One Sunday morning, little girls and adults in Sunday school, these white Christians set the church afire, God's house. And you all think I'd want to be called a Christian? And they did it under the rag. And you think that that means something to me other than a sign of oppression? Wherever I see an American flag, I know it's bad news for black people. And I say again to these cowards, I know they watch because they call and curse Cindy out. They write anonymous letters and they put a return address that doesn't exist in a state far away, and it's postmarked as one of these little towns in Nebraska. And I say a little town, they don't have their own post office, but it's where these little town people go to, and their mail gets postmarked. And I'm not supposed to be able to read from one side of the envelope to the other. That's what ignorant, cowardly, racist white people do. I know what you are, and you show me what you are. Now, if it doesn't apply to you, if I'm making hats and it doesn't fit you, don't put it on your head. But if you snatch it out and put it on your head, you're the one who made the application. I simply gave the definition. If you applied it to yourself, that's on you. But you know what's inside of you, and you know that I know what's inside of you. And this is a part of the session that I warned you about, but you thought I was like you. You thought I was like that faithless group who tricked Senator Hunt and working with them to come up with a compromise. And you think I'm like that, huh? And you think I'm going to swallow and fall for that? No, I told you what I was going to do. And I'm doing it. You ought to respect that. I'm giving you an example that your white betters will not show you. The governor can whip them into line also. This is not the last time I'm going to do this. Since Senator Greger persuaded the Speaker, the one in the chair, to make that determination, it should be made from now on throughout the session, but that's too easy. What I'm going to start doing now is making it easy on myself and the bill drafter by just offering amendments and motions on your bill.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll ask for a call of the, anybody else is going to speak, or was that closing?
That was your closing. Thank you, Senator Chambers.
Then I would ask for a roll call vote and a call of the House first.
There's been a request to place the House under call. The question is, shall the House go under call? All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
20 yeas, 5 nays, Mr. President, to place the House under call.
The House is under call. Senators, please record your presence. Those unexcused senators outside the chamber, please return to the chamber and record your presence. All unauthorized personnel, please leave the floor. The House is under call. Senator Bowles, please check in. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Albright, voting no. Sir Arch, voting no. Sir Blood, voting no. Sir Bowles, voting no. Sir Bostelman, voting no. Sir Brandt, voting no. Sir Brewer, voting no. Sir Breesy, voting no. Sir Kavanaugh, voting no. Sir Chambers, not voting. Sir Clements, voting no. Sir Crawford, Sir DeBoer, voting no. Sir Dorn, voting no. Sir Erdman, not voting. Sir Friesen, voting no. Sir Geist, voting no. Sir Gregert, voting no. Sir Groney, Sir Holleran, voting no. Sir Ben Hansen, voting no. Sir Matt Hansen, voting no. Sir Hilgers, voting no. Sir Hickelman, voting no. Sir Howard, Sir Hughes, voting no. Sir Hunt, voting no. Sir Kalowski, not voting. Sir Coulterman, voting no. Sir Legrone, voting no. Sir Lathrop, voting no. Sir Lindstrom, voting no. Sir Lindstrom, not no, right? Oh, thank you. Sir Linehan, Sir Lowe, voting no. Sir McAllister, voting no. Sir McDonald, Sir Moorfeld, Sir Moser, voting no. Sir Merman, voting no. Sir Pansing Brooks, not voting. Sir Quick, voting no. Sir Scheer, voting no. Sir Slama, voting no. Sir Stinner, voting no. Sir Vargas, voting no. Sir Walls, voting no. Sir Wayne, voting no. Sir Williams, voting no. Sir Wishart, voting no. 0. Sir Erdman, voting no. 0 ayes, 40 nays, Mr. President, to indefinitely postpone.
The motion fails. Mr. Clerk.
Raise the call, Matt. Please.
Raise the call.
No.
Items, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, before we go to the next motion, I do have a few things. Senator Hansen would like to put an amendment to 217, Senator Erdman to 512, Senator Chambers to 590. Mr. President, Senator Chambers would move to amend the bill. I'm sorry, he would move to reconsider the vote with respect to the indefinite postpone motion.
Senator Chambers, you're recognized to open on your motion to reconsider.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the legislature, I'm not through with this bill by a long shot, and I'm going to see how long the Speaker keeps us here this evening. In a way, I'm giving a challenge to him. Keep them here, make them earn their living or their wages, and punish me by giving me the opportunity to show how long I can continue doing this. And after this motion, I'm going to start offering amendments on the bill, just for the sake of variety. Variety, they say, is the spice of life. I may even discuss for you all the inappropriate execution that was carried out against Kerry Dean Moore. He's a white guy who had been on death row for 38 years. They had tried to kill him maybe a decade ago. They had been trying, and I had written a letter. At that time, they had the electric chair. pointing out why they ought not allow this execution be carried out, even though they had set an execution date, because there was a case before them on appeal that had what no other case ever presented to any state court or any federal court, including the U.S. Supreme Court, with a completely developed record containing scientific evidence and information about what happens to a human body when electrocution occurs. I mentioned some other principles of law. And Judge, he is now a federal judge, and Jeff Sessions voted against his being confirmed for that position because Judge Gerard's principles led him to agree with the comments that I made in my letter and said what a horrible thing it would be if they allowed this electrocution to occur. Then when that fully developed case came up, they ruled that the electric chair was indeed unconstitutional as violating the 8th Amendment to the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Constitution. They would have executed a man in accord with an unconstitutional punishment, and a majority of the Nebraska Supreme Court agreed to withdraw the death warrant they had issued for Carrie Dean Moore. And their opinion followed the arguments I made in my letter, almost as though I had written the opinion. Judge Heavican, Chief Judge, was very irate, and he wrote an angry, tut-tut, scolding dissent. But to make sure that I didn't intervene again and maybe persuade the judges in a way that no defense lawyer was able to persuade them, got a change in the rules of court so that if a case is pending, they cannot accept any ex parte communication. That means one that's outside of the court proceedings. But to make it very blunt, no more letters from Senator Chambers would be read. When they hastened to execute Moore this time and succeeded because he acceded to their executing him, I did write a letter, but the clerk wrote me a courteous note informing me that according to court rule such and such, adopted such and such a time after the other letter that I had written rescuing Moore, they could not entertain any ex parte communications, so the letter would not be read by the Chief Justice and it would not be read by the judges. But I know that they all read it. But they allowed the execution to be carried out anyway for political reasons. The expiration date on those drugs was fast approaching. None of the pharmaceutical houses that provided drugs that had been used in executions would sell any of those drugs to Nebraska. They had forbidden any of the people who distributed their drugs to sell them to Nebraska. So Nebraska had gotten them in a way that was illicit, and they did not properly store those drugs. They must be kept at a certain temperature or they lose their potency, and those drugs were not stored in that fashion, and it was a botched execution. I'm saying it. Frakes denies it, but they closed that curtain and kept it closed for 14 minutes and didn't open it until Moore was dead. And some bad things happened behind that curtain. And it shook the director up, and the reporters could see it when he came out. And instead of discussing this with them as they had always done in the past, when somebody was electrocuted, not the speaker, I have to remember where I am. The director flew out of that place like a bat out of Hades. And now he knows that I know what had happened. And when I tried to engage him in a discussion of it at a Judiciary Committee hearing, he wouldn't answer. I said, "Oh, so you're taking the fifth, huh? You know that I know, and I've said enough to you to let you know that I know. Isn't that true?" The man looked like his face was cut from stone. And when he left the chair, we were in that chamber over there. He flew up the aisle and pushed those doors open like they used to do in the days of the Old West, and were beating a fast retreat from a saloon that had swinging doors. A lot of terrible things are going on in this state, and I'm going to be the one who will continue to address those kind of things wherever they occur. It happens that that kind of garbage has found its way into the legislature. So what I've got to do is put some things on the record and name the people who were involved in this perfidious action. Inexcusable. And some of them conduct themselves as though they're holy and Christians. But when somebody tells me a Christian, I know I'm dealing with somebody that I better watch, keep a close eye on. Everything they say, take with a grain of salt. When they're unfaithful in little things, they'll be unfaithful in all things. At least that's the conclusion that can be drawn. And when a legislature runs on lies, faithlessness, untrustworthiness, it's not a proper legislative assembly anymore. There are no rules. There are rules in the book. They can be invoked, as in this instance, but there are some people who are not going to sit idly by and let it happen. We're going to take time, and you're going to see that when tomorrow comes, I'm not going to be like some people who say, "I will go all the way on this." I'll do it, but I'm just not going to let you know when the drop is going to fall. But I assure you, this is not the last of it, and I will continue this tomorrow. And if the Speaker decides to keep us here until 11:59, I will be here. Why till 11:59? Once the time goes a minute past midnight, that's the beginning of another legislative day. And you all are not going to want to stay after that, so that's why I say 11:59. I can do it. Can you all do it? I haven't sat down today.
1 minute.
I haven't eaten anything today. I'm like Jesus said, "I have meat to eat that you know not of." You all get tired from sitting. Your brains are slow. Your morals are non-existent. It's a terrible place to be. But I chose to be here. So now, as Frank Sinatra said, I'm going to do it my way. And this is the way that it's going to be done. Now, if you all want to get together and form a delegation, Senator B. Hansen and Senator Brandt, and get a delegation together and ask me, what must you do to be saved? Once you present that question, I'll listen perhaps, and maybe we can reach an accord. Otherwise, get ready for this. But there are some bills that I will not touch.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. And you are next in the queue. You may continue.
There are some things in the Bible that come in handy. There was going to be a death angel in the Old Testament who's going to kill everybody unless you had gotten the word and you put some blood over the door. And the death angel said, "If I see the blood, I'll pass over you." Those were the instructions from upstairs. When you see that blood, you pass over it. Because there's somebody, after you kill everybody, who's got to continue to live. And that somebody is Dracula. If you kill everybody, there's nobody for Dracula to live off of, and Dracula hasn't done anything. So when you see the blood, you pass over that house. Well, I find Dracula to be more reliable and to have more integrity than people in this body but I will accept the example of the death angel in the Old Testament. Show me the blood and I'll pass over your bill. You all get together and give me what I want, and I'll pass over. All you have to do is find out what it is that I want. You've given other senators things far less significant than what I'm after, but you're not going to do that. That's why I can put that possibility out there for you, because I have now set my inner clock to where I will do this day after day after day. But I may not do it every single day, one right after the other, or maybe I shall. Maybe I'll just do it part of a day. Let you all's hopes get up, then dash them. That's the way gods of every description play with human beings. You're toys. You're of no import. Why does your Bible say, "What is man that thou art mindful of him?" He's nothing. Nothing at all. He is a plaything. So, if you're put here to be played with, I may as well play with you also. But you'll never hear me do like what some of you do, and that's make all these professions of religion. It's always amusing to me to watch you all say the flag salute, and the camera people are trying to be nice by not panning the room and showing how few people are here, showing their patriotism. You ought to make them sing the national anthem too. That's what I think you ought to do. You ought to make them say the flag salute and then sing the national anthem. And don't let them sit down. Take the whole thing. But you're not going to do that, are you? And then you have a prayer. I didn't know that I had anything in common with anybody who was a Mormon. But I find out that I do have something in common with Mitt Romney. He had a birthday, and he didn't blow out the candles. He plucked each candle up and blew it out individually because he didn't want to spread germs on the cake. In years past, every single year, for several running, I was invited over to Iowa. It was on the campus of the University of Iowa in Ames, and the farm youth would have their convention, and I was asked to come talk to them. Somebody had heard me over here talking to young people and thought that would be of value to those children over there. And I went year after year, and they found out the date of my birthday, and my visit happened to fall on that date. And they had a huge cake, and they said, "You'll probably have to take several breaths," but because there were quite a few candles in. I said, "Well, you should never blow out a cake because spittle comes out of your mouth, and you should not spit on that which people are going to eat." And they said they had never thought of it. So something as fundamental as that, I was able to bring enlightenment to them on. So you can imagine what to my wondering eyes should appear but Mitt Romney, a Mormon, following the teachings. And he pulled each candle out. And even the people who were giving the news talked about how much sense that made. But I guess it takes what you all would call a non-believer in all the ghosts and the goblins.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Chambers, you're recognized to speak, and this is your third time.
I regret that we're reaching the posterior portions of the day, and we're going to have to depart. As said the bard, parting is such sweet sorrow, but we'll be back tomorrow. Somebody is trying to give me something to strengthen me, and he believes in commercials. There will be a vicious, roaring monster about to descend on something or some things, and somebody gives it a snicker, and he transforms. The speaker does not know that I keep things. He tried that 4 years ago. Here's what he gave me then. Here's what he gave me today. He doesn't give up. And I'll tell you the real reason I was keeping it. I wanted to see if there's a resurrection for the Snicker. And I figured that 4 years ought to be enough for it to resurrect if it's ever going to do it. And I'm curious as to how they can go into these Egyptian tombs, and people have been there thousands of years and they haven't risen from the dead yet. How much time do they need? How many of you all believe that? You believe it and you don't believe it. You believe in all these yarns enough to be scared of dying, but you don't believe it in it enough to change the way you live. That puzzles me about you religious people. You're scared to die, and yet you don't live the way you're supposed to. That doesn't make sense. If you know that when you croak, you can see all these wonderful things they lied to little children about, but you believe it, it doesn't seem to me that anything would be too difficult to bear. You would welcome death. You would embrace death. You would have a party so that the international harvester would come to you more quickly, expeditiously. But that's not the way it goes. Every time I see these commercials on television advertising these pharmaceuticals, to me it tells me that Christians don't believe what they say. All of that stuff is to keep you from having to go meet your Maker. But if you believe what you say, which you don't, that wouldn't happen. If you believe these prayers that are spoken, things would be different when we have the opportunity as the legislature to do things to help the people who need to be helped. But then you got hypocrites like Senator LaGrone, who's willing to beg for farmers and others, white groups who are getting handouts, give them millions of dollars, but hungry people, none. Senator Lowe talking about people go get work, and he doesn't know this. People will not hire felons. He says he would. He can't hire everybody. We're on the Judiciary Committee, and we have experience with these matters. On the Business and Labor Committee, we have experience with how these things are being done. Then people who don't know anything are going to turn all of you around because you are as dumb as he is and say, well, let them go get a job. Marie Antoinette said when the people were hungry, let them eat cake. No bread, let them eat cake. See, Senator Lowe can leave here and he can go give his family some food. And as long as he can feed his, he doesn't care about anybody else. That's what I'm saying. And you know that's the way it is. You can take care of yours, and if you've got yours, you don't care about anybody else. But you didn't get yours by yourself. Senator Wayne explained how you white people got this land in the first place. It was given to you, and you stole it from the American Indians, as you call them. You were not discoverers. You were invaders. They're the ones who needed a wall to keep you out. They didn't have enough internal security to keep you out. And you tricked them, you duped them, you bamboozled them, and now you're on that reservation that Senator Brewer told you about. He cannot even speak up as strongly as he should. But you will never see me turn my back on my people to get along with people like you all. I wouldn't go home with you if you invited me. I wouldn't eat with you. We're not friends. We couldn't be friends.
Time, Senator.
For what? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, I was looking at the wrong person. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Seeing no one wanting to speak, Senator Chambers, you're recognized to close on your motion to reconsider.
Thank you, and I assure you I have another one ready. Not just a motion, I'm going to start amending the bill. And I wish you all would tell the Speaker, keep that old man up here till 11:59. We don't think he can do it. But here's the kicker. You couldn't do it. You can't do it. You've got places to go, people to see, maybe some lobbyists, free food to eat while you're denying food to others because you got yours. The thing that would make me worry about your children, Senator Lowe, is if my children could eat and your children could not. You could be the biggest rat who ever lived, but I wouldn't punish your children because their father is a rat. That is their punishment. And I'm not like your God. I would punish generations down to the 4th generation for something you did. I would not say, Senator Lowe ate sour grapes, let his children's teeth be set on edge, but you don't mind doing that because you've never had this kind of problem. So you think you never will. So you have a higher moral standing than everybody else. You're in a position to judge, and as a member of the legislature, you can persuade your fellows who are just like you to say, let them eat cake. But in the end, Marie Antoinette didn't fare so well. But that's not the way the real world works now. You will go on and succeed. You'll die a happy old man in bed, and that'll be the end of it. And all the people who were denied because of your false leadership, and I accept what you say, there's plenty of work out there. They'll still be hurting. Their children will be hurting, and it won't make you any difference. Maybe that's why I'm living so long. Maybe there's a way, maybe there's something in the cards that I can find that will soften a heart like yours or stop you from saying the things that you say. You give them an excuse. See, you're a bad man because you really are bad. And they look to bad men like you to give them an excuse. And you can give them that excuse. And it doesn't bother you because you have no conscience. They need somebody to ease their conscience. And if their leader, whom they've made you, gives them those words, they can do it. I cannot watch anybody hungry. I cannot be comfortable in the presence of anybody suffering if I can alleviate it. And you know why that is? Because I'm not a Christian. And I'm sure you are one, or you profess to be one, but I'm not going to ask you. And I'm not going to accuse you of being one. That's the worst accusation I think can be laid on a person, to call him or her a Christian. Now, what you would like to see, and the rest of your colleagues here, is a big bonfire out in one of those courts with me as the main participant. They call that an auto de fe, an act of faith. When they burned somebody at the stake, that was an auto de fe. They burned women. For people like Senator Slama, who doesn't know that, was Joan of Arc a woman? I wonder why they would refer to her gender. But it didn't make them any difference. They were not respecters of anything. Cruel, hard-hearted then, cruel, hard-hearted now. And your governor, a putative Christian, a putative Catholic, some would say putative. He believes in killing, even though the Pope said that shouldn't be. He believes in denying the hungry food, even though the Catholic Church doctrine has always been against that.
1 minute.
Deny the homeless shelter. The Catholic doctrine, if you want to call it that, of social justice does not go for that. But you all do. And I'm here among you. They say evil or wicked companions corrupt good manners. Well, you all are not my companions. We're just here together. But we're not companions, we're not friends, and my manners will not be corrupted. You and no number of people like you could ever put me in a position where I will withhold food from the hungry when it can be provided and it's not even coming out of my pocket. I am so mean-spirited, so wicked in my deepest innards that I will not support food that I don't even have to pay for just so they don't get it. I hope that nothing ever befalls your child that has befallen other people's children.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. And that was your close on your reconsideration motion. Members, we will now be voting on the reconsideration motion.
Call of the House and a roll call vote.
There has been a request to place the House under call. The question is, shall the House go under call? All those in favor, please vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
15 ayes, 9 nays to place the House under call.
The House is under call. Senators, please record your presence. Those unexcused senators outside the chamber, please return to the chamber and record your presence. All unauthorized personnel, please leave the floor. The House is under call. Senator Chambers, please check in. Senator Bowles, please check. All members are accounted for. The question is, shall the motion to reconsider be adopted? All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, vote nay.
I believe he asked for a roll call, Mr. President.
Senator Chambers, did you request a roll call?
Yes,
Sorry.
thank you.
We'll have a roll call. Mr. Clerk?
Senator Albright, voting no. Senator Arch, voting no. Senator Blood, voting no. Senator Bowles, voting no. Senator Bostelman, voting no. Senator Brandt, not voting. Senator Brewer, voting no. Senator Breese, voting no. Senator Kavanaugh, voting no. Senator Chambers, voting yes. Senator Clements, voting no. Senator Crawford, Senator DeBoer, Senator DeBoer, I'm sorry. Voting no. Senator Dorn. Voting no. Senator Erdman. Voting no. Senator Friesen. Voting no. Senator Geist. Voting no. Senator Gregert. Voting no. Senator Groney. Senator Halloran. Voting no. Senator Ben Hansen. Voting no. Senator Matt Hansen. Voting no. Senator Hilgers. Voting no. Senator Hickelman. Voting no. Senator Howard. Senator Hughes. Voting no. Senator Hunt. Voting no. Senator Kalowski. Not voting, Sir Coulterman. Voting no, Sir Legrone. Voting no, Sir Lathrop. Voting no, Sir Lindstrom. Voting no, Sir Linehan. Sir Lowe. Voting no, Sir McAllister. Voting no, Sir McDonald. Sir Morfeld. Sir Moser. Voting no, Sir Merman. Voting no, Sir Pansy Brooks. Voting no, Sir Quick. Voting no, Sir Scheer. Voting no, Sir Slama. Voting no, Sir Stinner. Voting no, Sir Vargas. Voting no, Sir Walls. Voting no, Sir Wayne. Voting no, Sir Williams. Voting no, Sir Wishart. Voting no. 1A, 40 nays on the motion to reconsider.
Motion fails. Raise the call. Mr. Clerk, for items.
Mr. President, no items. Senator Albright would move to adjourn the body until Wednesday morning, April 3 at 9:00 a.m.
Members, you've heard the motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.